Well, welcome to the World Crypto News. I'm Robert, and today's talk is again Tucker Carlson is my hero, and I want to discuss that because we just had Joe Biden's and Vladimir Putin's meeting, and I want to cover those news. I want to explain what does that mean for the investors, especially when it comes down to crypto. What does that mean for the world of cryptocurrencies and actually blockchain technology? And I want to share my personal testimony about what's happening. And because it's very related to the work that I do. I'm chief architect of the universal digital currency for the Eurasian Union, and that's precisely the project I'm working on. What we are building is exactly the measure that we're developing, so there will be some sort of a balance and some sort of a economical agreement between the countries, especially countries like Russia, United States, and territories like Europe, when it comes down to political sanctions and everything that's happening. When they use, especially right now, they know that they're going to use some financial instruments, some financial tools to put pressure and to put a political pressure on the country. So let's break it down. Please subscribe, please hit the like button if you like it, and let's get to it. And let's talk about Tucker Carlson. Well, Tucker Carlson, if you haven't seen his show yet, his interview yet, I do strongly recommend you to do so. First of all, because he got balls to voice over to say things that pretty much on the mind of many people in the United States and in the world. Because if your country is doing something, your GOP, your government is doing something, and it's kind of, we have this tendency, we have to support it all the way up, all thumbs up. But as a matter of fact, not on all issues we have to agree, and we don't have to, and it's not, and that's what democracy is. That's what the freedom of speech is. That's when you can voice over your personal opinion on things and that matters to you, or if somebody's trying to push their agenda or their own interests before your interest, then you need to voice it over. And Tucker Carlson actually did that. He said that GOP is trying to goad U.S. into the war with Russia, and that's true. That the United States and as Americans, we shouldn't be concerned what's happening in Ukraine. And second of all, well, he said that there's no really aggression. Everybody, we see that propaganda right now in American news and in European news that Russia is an aggressor who is gathering troops in front of on the borders with Ukraine, and the Russia is an aggressor in that conflict, and Russia is escalating things in this conflict. But as a matter of fact, he voiced everything that everybody knows, that NATO is expanding its borders. And let's go back a little bit in history. That was the agreement between Gorbachev and Reagan, between USSR and Russia, that and in the United States, that USSR will stop its militarization. USSR will cease to be as a communist or socialist party and move toward the democracy and through reforms and reformation of its structure and presidency. So the Gorbachev, pretty much agreed that the USSR losing that Cold War, that makes no sense no longer to go ahead with that Cold War, and it would make more sense if we start working together on building and creating a better world for both countries and for both groups of people. Hi, Alex. I see some people joining my stream. Thank you, Alex, for joining it. Again, if you guys are new to this channel, please subscribe, hit the like button, and you are more than welcome if you watch this in the recording. Please go ahead and just ask questions below. And hi, Galina. Thank you for joining as well. So please do comment below on those matters. And for me, you see, this matter is a very personal issue because I am a U.S. citizen. I'm a Russian descent. My mom is actually from Western Ukraine. I have 3 American children who live in the United States, yes, and I have another Russian child who lives in Germany. And so pretty much things that happening all around is actually of my concern and of my greatest concern, because first of all, I'm a father and I have to live in this world and I have to explain to my children what's happening, and I have to deal with this crap on a personal basis because I have family in Western Ukraine, I have family in Germany, I have family in the United States, and I have family in Russia. We live in a new world, and we have to understand that the world is diverse. It is, back in the days in 20th century, traveling wasn't that big of an issue. And the USSR had closed borders, and Russians lived in Russia, and Americans lived in America, and Ukrainians lived in Ukraine. But after the USSR collapsed, and after we agreed that NATO will not expand its borders, so there will be no aggression, or blockade or financial any financial blockades, and we agreed to build the bridges instead of burning them, and build those bridges to grow economically together and resolve those issues and those differences. We should put them aside and actually start building a better new world for at least our kids. But 30 years passed, and NATO actually lied to USSR. It's a true fact, because they said, well, it wasn't on the paper. So we pretty much lied. We pretty much lied to Russia and USSR that we're not going to extend, that NATO is not going to extend its presence, but NATO keeps pushing and pushing toward Russia. And now they're saying, well, Russian troops are very close to NATO troops. Well, the Russian troops are in Russia, and they're staying in Russia, and you moving the borders of NATO, and you moving, NATO is moving, and you moving your armed forces closer to Russia. And how is that Russian fault? And this looks like an aggression. True. If you look right now how Tucker Carlson getting lynched pretty much by media, you go on Business Insider, and there's another article. I have on the screen, but there's another article. It says Tucker Carlson justifying an invasion of Ukraine, and other things. Back in his bow tie days, the idea of young columnist and TV pundit Tucker Carlson arguing in favor of Russian military invasion and against position of the US and its NATO allies would have seemed far-fetched. What is it far-fetched? I don't understand. Why is it far-fetched on his behalf? What, again, invasion? Nobody's invading Ukraine. For those who, I understand there's many people have to have some relation to Ukraine to actually feel bad about it. If the war starts tomorrow, will you send your son from Ohio or Idaho to fight for Ukraine? And why would you? And after all, why should you be even concerned about what Russia, Ukraine, what's happening there? Well, let me put you down in history. Let's go back to let's say 100 years ago. First of all, Ukraine, 200 years ago, almost 300 years ago, joined Russia. It was kind of a territory where would slaves run away, criminals and all kinds of scam just would live there. And they had their troops, Cossacks, and nobody could conquer them because they were just, traveling Cossacks dealing lots of problems. So when the Poland announced that they will have a war against Ukrainians and kill all of them, they signed a pact that they will join Russia, and they were kind of an independent Republican state with its own government, but they would be a part of Russia. So they've been a Russia for more than 300 years. Russia, and that's Crimea. Crimea was never a part of Ukraine at that time. Crimea never was part of Ukraine when they joined Russia. So they joined Russia, and they stayed under the Russian jurisdiction and protection for all those years, all the way till the last century, 1917, before the great Soviet Revolution took place. That's very important to understand, because Western Ukrainians, they were mainly farmers, but revolution took place because of the urbanization and because of the World War II. Russians were sent on a war. They were losing the war, World War II, many deaths, and there was very rich people, pretty much the same as like today. 1% controlled all the goods, all the resources of Russia, and the poor people did not have a good medicine, good education, nor they had decent living. So yes, they start protesting, and then people from Ukraine, Trotsky, many of them are Jewish Ukrainians, and it's very important to understand that as well. Jewish Ukrainians joined with the Moscow troops, and actually St. Petersburg was the capital of Russia back in the days. They moved it to Moscow, and So it's another thing between Russians and Ukrainians. And pretty much Ukrainians were fighting. They were the least one to give up their lands, pretty much. They were fighting against the new government of USSR, those rebels who took over the country and, start taking away everything from people. They say, well, it's a communist country, so you have to share all your goods with others. So pretty much, yes. And then the Ukraine became a part of the USSR. And only in 1953, when Khrushchev came into power, that's another Belarusian guy, and he said, well, there was some meeting. I'm not going to go into details. If you want to, you can Google it. He went there and signed the petition. Well, why don't we just have Crimea to become a part of under the Ukrainian jurisdiction? So he pretty much just signed it off while in Sevastopol and Suvorov in the war with Turkey. There was a fight with Turkey for Crimea. Russians freed the Crimea. There was Tatar people. So at that time, the Soviet Union fleet was located on the Crimea, and it's still, until our days, the Russian military forces on the Black Sea, the main military forces, Navy, Black Sea Navy is located in the Crimea. So it stayed there, and then when the USSR was collapsing, because Russia said, well, NATO is not going to be expanding. It's not going to be expanding, so we don't really have to think about, protecting our borders, protecting our fleet. It will stay in Ukraine because Ukraine is this buffer zone, and we have an agreement that our fleet, our navy is going to be located there by the Black Sea. This is our sister nation, our brothers and family, because for almost 300 years, when the Ukrainians were part of Russia, Ukrainians went to Siberia. There's lots of Ukrainians living in Siberia. They went throughout the Russia. If you look at south of Russia, all the way by the Black Sea, for instance, like my mom, she lived in the western Ukraine by Romania, but they moved with my grandpa, my great grandma from western Ukraine. So my mom is half Ukrainian, half Russian, and they moved south by the Black Sea, Cuban, Russian region. But half of the population who lives there, they have roots to Ukraine. So this is like two nations. It's pretty much, let's say, like Canadians and Americans, pretty much, or pretty much like Canadians and Americans. If you live on the borders with Canada and America, this is the same people, just have different accents, and Ukrainian language is not that different from Russian, but yeah, they do have their culture, but it's very similar. It's like pretty much like Canadians and Americans. And then check this out. And then in the 90s, of course, the United States became more, Ukraine became more American friendly for one particular reason. Because in 80s and 90s, there was a huge wave of immigration from that region. And those people who immigrated to the United States and Israel were Russian Jewish community. Those Russian Jews. As a matter of fact, 2,000 years ago, this is where the Judah was from. So these people are descendants of Judah, if you look at the Bible. So they've been there for 2,000 years, and then they were fleeing because of all this, repressions, and because of the World War II. That's Hitler. When he got there, he was murdering, German, Romanian, Bulgarians, Germans. Troops attacked. When they attacked USSR, they went through Ukraine. And Ukraine got pretty much like Belarusians, got the worst hits by the Nazis, because they were trying to move to Moscow. So they burned lots of Ukrainian Jews during the World War II, and many of them immigrated during the World War II to America. And then the rest of the family was joining them in 80s and 90s. So there are huge ties, understanding that out of 10 million Russian-speaking community, 5 million are Russian Jewish community, or Russian-speaking Jewish community, or Ukrainian-speaking Jewish community. So these ties to America grew very strong, as a matter of fact, because there was not that many Russians actually living in, like Russians, if you call it the Russians, living in America. So the ties are very strong. What we see right now with Zelensky is the same, this Russian Jewish descent, and all his friends and all his allies are the same people. So they do have ties, relative ties, to, so to speak, to Jewish communities in the United States, in America, in Pentagon. And it's not a secret, I lived in West Hollywood for 15 years, 20 years. I lived among the Russian Jews from Ukraine, and so on and so forth. So because of this oppression of USSR, or because of this USSR problems, even my great-great-great-parents were affected by that. They took their land and took their sheep, back in the day. So after the USSR collapsed, they gave those lands back again. So whatever Ukrainians were upset that USSR took over their land, well, it was also Ukrainians. It wasn't just Russians who came there and Ukrainians were against. No, there was Ukrainians who actually were part of Russia, and they were in charge. Those Russian Jews like Trotsky and Lenin and Beria, there was lots of these Jews from that region who actually organized that revolution. And there was these Jews from Germany as well who sponsored the revolution. So it's not fair when the Ukrainians say that Russia became an occupant of the country, they took over that. No, it's not true. It's been upon agreement from both sides. It just happened to be that way because nobody would ever separate Russia from Ukraine. It's when you talk Russia, you always consider Ukraine to be a part of it, and it's been so on and so forth. So all these tensions in the 90s, they were brought back like, oh, look, you got our land, so all the land got released. Nobody argued about Crimea. Okay, whatever, your jurisdiction has been under your jurisdiction for 50 years, but it's not Ukraine. And you see, it's never been in Ukraine. Like, Russia got this land. Russia protected the land. That's why the fleet is there. It was never Ukraine. But all that didn't really matter because everyone thought that we're going to live in a better world. And I remember 90s growing up that, I asked my mom, like, why would Americans and Russians hate each other? And she told me that story. She said, well, we don't have weapons of mass destruction or rockets on our backyard. And I asked my mom, like, should I hate someone? Like, which side I should be on? She said, this is all just politicians, but I think that there's another single mom in this world, on another country, who's trying to raise her child, and she thinks about peace, and she cares about her child to grow up in a better place. And so we shouldn't hate anyone because this is all just the politics. But it's 2021, and where's this wind of change by Scorpions? Where are those Berlin Wall when it collapsed? Where's that spirit of unifying the world? And especially now through globalization, now when we can travel and we have families and we build families in different countries, what happened? Why we're not there? So if we look at every single war that happened in the history of mankind, it's never been because of politics. It's never been because of religion. It's never been because of any other reason but the economical reasons. And those economical reasons were the market share or resources. 2,000 years ago, there was a war for bread, salt, and beer. When we hear the story about Israel in 1200s, Crusaders went there and killed Arabs and Muslims, not because they're Muslims, no, because the Queen or the King of England wanted to control sugar trade, and they did. And then there was this world war, the war with Napoleon. There was economical crisis. He had no choice. They would be attacking and expanding the French Empire because people were starving. The whole entire French Revolution came to pass because they ran out of resources. And then in World War I in Germany, when the Jewish bankers, and that's happened the same in Russia, Jewish bankers controlled the market share. They were pushing Germany. They were taking advantage of Germany, and Germany rebelled. They tried to expand their market share and resources. And the World War II, the same thing. Nothing changed. America went through the Great Depression. The world was in depression. And, Hitler wasn't just a cruel man. He thought, well, economically, if we're that nation that works better, we need to get rid of Jews because, well, they killed Stolypin, which was a genius economist in Russia. Jewish terrorists did. There was Jewish terrorists, like a Muslim, suicide bombers. They were hitmen, murderers, by the Jewish bankers. There was a huge expense, and that's why we saw what Germany did to poor Jewish people, and who has no relations to those bankers or to those actually Jewish people who were causing that much of a turmoil, and economical turmoil and financial turmoil and pressure on Europe back in the day. So it was horrible. It was a disaster that we went through. And then in the 90s, and right now we see again, it's like we're back 100 years ago. And Tucker Carlson said that. Why are you telling us that, Why do we need to go to war with Russia? And then actually talks went through, and Biden said, well, there will be no talks with Russia. There will be no military confrontation with Russia if Russia invades Ukraine. But yet again, why would Russia invade Ukraine? It never would. What happened in 2014 with Crimea is that the pro-American Jewish guys overthrew the government. So they did a revolution in their country. Maidan, someone sponsored it, and it became very obvious that Obama administration wants to do some shale gas mining there through a gas company. Biden's son, who is very well known for drugs addictions and prostitutes, now becomes an advisor to a gas company there, and he's got paid $50,000 a month. For freaking what? Like, what kind of advice he could give to a gas company in the freaking Ukraine? Like, can you explain me that? It's obviously he was getting bribes. That's how Biden administration was getting bribes. You know, he just put his son in, so he gets paid 50 grand. That he would blow on cocaine and bitches. You know what I mean? And the funny part is, and that's obviously something funny is going on. That there is an interest, they push an interest, and now they're talking about expanding NATO to Ukraine. So as soon as this new pro-NATO or those new Jewish government of Ukraine did this revolution, it left Russia no choice but to protect its territory, strategic territories like Crimea. There was a fleet there. And the same happening with Donbass. Donbass is like, it's about 200 kilometers from the place where my mom was born. So I live right there on the borders with Ukraine, the state region, Cuban region, where I was growing up as a kid, and where's my parents from. It's now become a part of Crimea. Like, there's this bridge to Crimea which goes through my region. So I know the people firsthand, and everything that I'm sharing with you, it's from the people who lives in this region rather than just some news and stuff. And that's why I admire Carlson, because he got balls to actually speak out on the things that there's some BS going on right now, and it is BS. So yes, Russia did not invade. They went to Crimea with the help of half of the citizens of Crimea are Russians and Russian citizens. Half of the Donetsk, where the military is going on, are also citizens of Russia. So they went there to Ukraine, to Crimea. Russia built the bridge in 5 years. They built a new bridge that allowed better logistics to the Crimea. But the Ukrainian part starts sabotaging. People that have no relations to Crimea, like Western Ukrainians, they're Nazis. Their descent were fighting on the sides with the Germans, on the German sides with the Nazis. These are descents, those people who are like Nazi talking right now in Ukrainian, like, oh, you have to speak only Ukrainian. Those are Nazis. Their great parents helped Germans to kill people of Ukraine, to kill those Jews. And so this is like ridiculous for me right now. There's a Jewish kind of a community in charge of Ukraine right now, while it's supporting those Nazis who've been killing their ancestors back in the days. This is just, the world went crazy. And the whole idea why they were doing this is because Ukraine for the past 30 years without Russia weren't doing that great. Russia actually did rebuild the entire country after the World War II. They built them factories, manufacturing, built them electric plants, pretty much all the infrastructure, schools, universities, you name it, everything been done by Russia and Russian people. You know, I'm not talking about the government, but the people of Russia spend their resources and money to restore Ukraine from World War II attack. So when the Ukrainians say, oh, we've been occupied by USSR, really, how many countries do you know that occupy you and build up the infrastructure? But after they separated from USSR, from Russia, after the USSR collapsed, they weren't doing that good. They are famous for exporting prostitutes all over the world. You know, their men work for nothing, for peanuts pretty much in Europe. Now they wanted, so the whole concept in 2014 revolution was that we will join NATO, or we will join Euro, and Europe will give us money. So I'm asking, like, do my dear American friends, are you willing to subsidize people who doesn't want to work pretty much with your own taxpayer monies? Are you ready to pay for that? Do you think France or Spain or Italy are eager to do that? Like Germany and France pretty much making money. Do you think they will give loans? And that was exactly an agreement. The president that's been overthrown was talking to Europe about getting 180 billion loan, but then Europe refused it. So he went to Putin, and that's kind of became a close call. He actually got $3 billion, I think, dollars from Putin for infrastructure. They were in great need of money. Ukraine has this pipe again, this gas pipe, and we'll move to that. I know it's kind of long, but it's very, very important. So they moved to this gas pipe, and pretty much all the Europe was getting this money, cash from gas, while stealing gas again and making money of it and living off it. And it's number one position in their budget is Russian gas pipe. And so the new government came in, and Russia had nothing else to do but to take over the Crimea. But Donbass people are fighting there against this new Nazi government. Those Ukrainians don't support it. They speak Russian. They don't want that because they're intolerant, because there's discrimination against Russian-speaking people. They discriminate them heavily. So when we talk about democracy and justice, there's nothing about democracy and justice. So this is it. We got the Crimea because, well, Russia got the Crimea because there was no way out. It has no... it had no other choice. That was expected. And now NATO, they want to, now NATO or Europe is trying to get Ukraine to be a part of NATO, to get the NATO's protection and move its forces all the way to border with Russia. It's like, for what? Yeah, Tucker Carlson was absolutely right. For what? Like, what we're trying to achieve here? What? We're trying to sanction gas pipe number 2 to Germany. We're trying to cut off gas from Europe. On what? So for what? Just only to boost the prices for gas, or to sell shale gas from America to Europe? Or like, why would we want to do bad to Europe while putting Ukraine? There is a mess, and now, you know, long story short, first of all, Russia does not really have any plans. There's no propaganda of invading Ukraine. More than that, the government and the people and the media here saying that we are the sister cities, the sister nations. Like we are. You see, I live in Moscow, so I'm confused. Yeah, and it's true, I am confused. My mom is from Western Ukraine. My dad is from Bulgaria, but he is Turkish and Muslim. My mom is Russian, used to be Russian Orthodox. Yes, I'm U.S. citizen. I lived in Russia. I have friends in Russia. I have families in Ukraine, in Russia, in Germany. Yes, and I'm Latter-day Saint, and you know, I have an American religion. So I'm confused. We have to understand that this world became very, very diverse. And so you see, I cannot take sides. I'm here to make a difference. I want to make a better world. I know we cannot be changed, but our kids have a chance, and that's because of this. You know, in 30 minutes. This is because of the cryptocurrencies. That's what the blockchain can do. That we can erase those borders on land, but have those borders in our heads and in our financial acting. So, yeah, long story short, Tucker Carlson said that right now United States said that they're not going to have a military reaction on anything if Russia invades Ukraine, and it will not invade Ukraine. Donetsk is the territory where still Russian citizens. If Ukrainians will push forward and kill those Russian citizens, then, well, what we have to do, we'll have to do what the Russia have to do, yeah? Because when September 11 attack happened, the United States invaded Iraq, while Iraq actually had nothing to do with it, yeah? And it's not even funny. It's horrible that, you know, I have children, and I'm concerned as a father. I'm concerned about the world, what's going to happen, because we're about to hit the worst financial crisis in the world, and creating those tensions or creating this Cold War will make us, our taxpayer monies, American taxpayer monies, are spent right now on sending military equipment to Ukraine. It's a good business. It's a good business to have a Cold War and spend, print more money to build more rockets. And not to use them, but just to have those tensions. I'm concerned that there'll be just an idiot on one of the sides. It could be a Russian side, it could be American side, or it could be a Ukrainian side. That will provoke a tragedy, and things might go ugly within a few days. I don't think there'll be a 5-year-old war, 5 years of war, or like, I don't think the war is going to last a month even. It's going to be 3 days, but those days are going to be devastating. Something bad's going to happen, and innocent people are going to suffer. And then it's going to send the wave around the world. And we are on the verge of huge economic crisis, which means that we are on the verge of the huge war that might turn really ugly really quick. And it's very devastating. And I applaud to Tucker Carlson. And Biden said, well, there will be no military response, but there will be economical response to Russia. They did that with Iran. They switched off their SWIFT, they switched them off from SWIFT and all the banking. So all the banks belong to the United States. They did the same with Afghanistan and many other countries. So sanctions against oil pipe is nothing but, not to help Russia to grow. Why would Russia want to make more money and grow? And Ukraine is actually sabotaging. They were making money from that pipe. They were stealing this gas. They did everything to be against Russia, and now they're concerned. Oh, why are you switching us? Why are you not working with us on gas transfer? Why would you? If you're not friends with us, you have this hostile activities toward Russia. So it's unjustified hostility. It's unjustified political issues, and it's unjustified in all the ways around from all of the parties. Again, I'm not on anyone's side, but it's 30th minute. Thank you if you stayed for me that long. I hope if you have any questions, again, please feel to ask. But that's how it's all related to crypto. Well, because the pack of all these sanctions that we experience right now, you see, you don't need to invade any country to destroy it in our days, because we live in a global market economy. It's enough only just to push with the hit of a button to switch Russia off the Visa, off MasterCard, off SWIFT account, and blockade it financially to do any international trade. That will drastically affect the economy of Russia. That would drastically affect everything that Russia does. So right now, the United States has so much power, not only because of the bombs or rockets or anything else. It has that much power because it owns pretty much the information. Who owns information runs the world. It's an old saying, and we all know about it, and that's the information. SWIFT, what is SWIFT? It's the same as blockchain, it's the same as Bitcoin, it's the same as, it's like, it's a network. Bitcoin is a network, Ethereum is a network, and everything that happened, all what we experience right now in a cryptocurrency world is that there's a new alternatives to that power come, and now people are controlling those networks. So it depends on the people. And I'm surprised that 6 years ago, I found out that Russia, Nazarbayev, it's the president of Kazakhstan, president of Belarus, and president of Russia, Vladimir Putin, actually said, well, let's do the union the same as European Union, but we call it Eurasian Union. It will help to connect China and India, because China and India are disconnected pretty much from the internet. They work on their own. China has their own inside banks, international trades. They all work on SWIFT. And you know what? Let's move forward with this Eurasian Union. Let's create our universal digital currency, that will work. And it happened to be because I'm an expert on blockchain technology. I've been called to Kazakhstan and went there. Now I'm in Moscow, Russia, and we are building this new metaverse gateway for the Russian Union. We're building this new universal digital currency, ALTYN. There's more info on the links below. Everything is in Wikipedia. And why do we do this? Why I'm here? Because I'm a father and I do want to make a difference, and that's what I'm building. ALTYN, I showed that this little coin. I'll repeat for those who are the first time. This is a currency that's been created by Genghis Khan and was printed by Peter the Greatest to unite economically separated states of Russia. This separation happened to be right now as well. So we do pretty much pretty much going through the same thing over and over again. Hopefully with the new technology, we are back 100 years ago. 1% controls the entire world population. This, again, Jewish bankers own most of the financial worlds in the world. Rockefellers. I mean, nothing changed technically. There was a try to do something to live different way, and this experiment with socialism kind of failed because you need the economy. But this new digital economy and what the Russian government and government of these parts realized that yes, we need to move over to democracy. Blockchain is the power to people, and ALTYN token will be issued, and anyone around the world can have a part of that. It's Zion City will be registered economically on a new offshore zone in Kazakhstan, which is neutral. Kazakhstan is protected by the Bank of Europe and United States allies, and of course Russian allies, so no one will attack them. And there's China on the other side. There's a great opportunity for many of us, um, you know, to try something new, something different. And this ALTYN token and ALTYN coin is the answer. So ALTYN token will be like 10-year bond for the United States. You will have, people will own it, so there will be no politicals anymore. So this idea of freedom and democracy, of independent centralized systems to a decentralized system like blockchain is coming to life, and the Russian government is willing to change. They want to cut the spending on the government, take people away and put machines in charge, and actually to have an order of things and have great things and make those things work. And that's what we're building here in Russia. That's what Russia is doing. So to be fair, does Russia is an aggressor in this direction? No. Is the United States an aggressor? Not at all. Why Ukrainians acting like this? Very simple. They have no money. They hope that if they'll kiss ass or Europe's ass and kiss Americans' ass, they will get some free cash that they can steal, because nobody wants to make Ukraine great again. No one cares about it. They're just stealing money. They've been stealing money from gas, not investing in their own people, not investing in their own country. And that's what happened in 2014. Those new people who came over, they said that the Europe and the United States will, give them cash and they give them freedoms and stuff. It did not happen. It's been 7 years. There's still corruption, there is still poor people, and nothing changed in Ukraine, and the new government failed, and Ukrainians don't like the new government. So Tucker Carlson, as a person who lives right now in Russia, as the person from that region who is technically and by blood has the right to say, I applaud you, Tucker Carlson. As an American citizen, as an American, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. GOP is trying to goad. For only reason, pushing the agenda, military. Why, he said, well, Republicans is not stopping them. Why would Republicans stop them? It's obvious that Republicans are on it, because they're going to be providing military support and spending money from the budget on military, therefore putting more cash. So you see, ALTYN is an alternative to acting like this. And we've been acting like this for past 2,000 years. There's nothing new, we need to find a new way how to communicate. We need to find a new way how to resolve our economical crisis. And that's new way is Industry 4.0. It's actually fourth industrial revolution. We had three before. One when it came to technology. All three of them are technological. One when it came to steam engines. Second, steam engines. Second was chemistry. And fourth came with conveyor and stuff. Third was computers right now, what we see, and the fourth will be Internet of Everything, Internet of Things. And I'm an expert on that. And the Internet of Things is not happening because, well, nobody's developing in the Western countries, no payment system. And the only country right now who is in charge of that, or group of countries, is Eurasian market. There is a free zone to do that. So if you guys are new to my channel, we really need your support. ALTYN tokens right now is traded as just crypto. It's a private. It's going to be independent from the government project, but we got all the approval from the governments. They support the ALTYN. What we're showing, you taking ALTYN token, which is like a bond, or it's not a security, it's a utility token at this point, but it will be a security token that will pay you dividends from mining, pretty much, or forging ALTYN coin. So you now can have this right for the monetary system. Eurasian market is $5 trillion. So we're launching the project. It will have capitalization at least 1 trillion from just that money, and it's a great project. So please smash the hit button, like button. Please subscribe. Ask me questions. Please get to know our project more, and it will all make sense. It will all make sense that the Russian government is so eager right now for a change, for democracy, for a better way. It's been tough 30 years for all of the people in Russia. I came here, 6 years ago. And not much have changed from 90s. Yet they do have now McDonald's and Burger King. Living right now in Moscow, not that much different from living in Los Angeles, except there's snow and no palm trees. But otherwise, infrastructure-wise, the same stores, the same merchandising, the same prices pretty much. Not that different. We're in a global world, and we need new tools. New tools so we can avoid this. We talk about, especially liberals and Democrats talk about, well, basic human rights. Well, we are tolerant to gays and transgenders and all that, but we don't care about institution of family. We tolerate all kinds of crap and all kinds of sick people, but we're not tolerant to families, to fathers and sons. We're not tolerant. I haven't, because of the paperwork, and haven't seen my brother for 21 years. It happened to be he lived in Russia. We met in Vegas for 3 days in 2017, and that's it. It's year 2021. I haven't seen him since, because I live right now in Moscow. We can travel now, but he's working, I'm working. But back in the days, because of the paperwork, we were separated as a family. And right now, if something goes wrong, we might get separated again. And we forgot that there's some loud ones. We need already to live in a world where we have a system, a software, a program where I can just, if I wish to go or fly somewhere, I just connect through my application, buy a ticket, and it will change. That's what the cryptocurrency will do. It will help you travel the world without borders, and people will check your intentions, what you do. If we all get on one network, it will change the world forever. So please join our project. Please join our group. Please let me know what you think about Carlson, what you think about this conflict that we have. And I wish you a really good day. Yet again, all the information about the project are below. Is more to come. So please subscribe and have a wonderful day. Thank you. Bye-bye. And yes, guys, hashtag Candace Collins. And by the way, Alex, Balvik, hello, you guys. Hello. I'm expecting you guys to see there'll be a Russian, there will be stream in Russian within a few minutes. So thank you for joining.